Hey guys, what is going on? We are back. We're going to be taking a look at the Nikita AVT again here today versus the Cooper Carbine. We do occasionally make these videos where we do compare weapons side by side, and because we have been presented with a couple of decent weapons in the game in the Season 3 Battle Pass, I feel like it is a nice time to make this video again. So we do have a lot of statistics that we do want to cover here today. We've got shots to kill, damage range, TTK values, recoil control, bullet velocity. You got all the stuff that we do like from these weapons. But just before we do get into comparing the Nikita AVT and the Cooper Carbine, make sure you do hit that subscribe button with those notifications turned on. I do very much appreciate it, and it really does help me out. Keep in mind that we are going to be comparing these weapons stats from their best class setups, and if you do want to see videos for those, they're going to be in the description and of course on the screen right now. So let's take a look at some of the stats here. One of the most important stats that you can go with is of course the shots to kill from these weapons. Now they do feature very similar stats across the board here, and then the shots to kill is no exception. Starting us off here, the Nikita AVT does give us a chest shot damage of about 35 damage per bullet, which does in turn give us a 3-shot kill, as the Cooper Carbine does give us a very similar number as well, a 3-shot kill at about 34-ish, 35 damage per bullet to the upper torso, and the chest is a very good number here. Now as I mentioned, these numbers are very similar, 3-shot kill for both of these weapons, but I'm actually going to award the point to the Nikita AVT here. When you do include hollow point in the class setup, you can actually get body damage to the limbs, giving you a 3-shot kill to anywhere on the body, allowing for more overall consistency with the Nikita AVT. So we're going to start off here with a score to the Nikita AVT of 1 and the Cooper Carbine 0. Moving on to the TTK here, or the time to kill. Again, this is related to our fire rate and of course our damage per bullet. The TTK on the Nikita AVT is a lovely 160 milliseconds, which is a very good milestone for us to hit. I believe sort of an average decent weapon in this game does hit about 180, like 200 milliseconds, and because the Nikita AVT does hit 160, meaning this is one of the better assault rifles in the game. Now the Cooper Carbine does actually mirror this stat as well, of 160 milliseconds worth of that time to kill value, not giving us a score here because these are the exact same number. So we still have 1 to the Nikita AVT and 0 to the Cooper Carbine. Moving on to the bullet velocity statistic here, which does directly affect our hit detection, the way the gun feels in game, and how hard the bullets and fast the bullets hit the target here. Now, the Nikita AVT does have a bullet velocity of 1,062 meters per second, which is actually pretty good, but the Cooper Carbine does noticeably increase on this number of 1,380 meters per second, which is pretty standard for, of course, the assault rifle category, meaning we do have a significantly better time with our hit detection with the Cooper Carbine, meaning we do feel a little bit more consistent at range with that hit detection. 1 to the Nikita AVT and 1 to the Cooper Carbine here. So one of the more important tests that we do have to take a look at here is of course the recoil control from both of these weapons. Now this is a pretty easy test. We stand at this point on sub pens and we look at the wall and we give it a little spray. Now we're only going to fire 25 bullets with, or 25-ish bullets with the Cooper Carbine, because of course the Nikita AVT does only have 25 bullets, but as you can see there from the Cooper Carbine, still relatively accurate. Like this is a super accurate gun. Does really only sway a little bit side to side, and then it sort of swings back into the left. A little bit of an S pattern, but still really easy to control. If we were to look at the Nikita AVT though, I mean, this thing is an absolute laser beam. Like it is literally a straight line, and it really doesn't stray off the vertical at all. Let's just do that again. Let's just do a side by side, little side by side here again. That's about right. And then fire a similar number of bullets here. I mean, this thing is like such an accurate weapon in this game. It's ridiculous. Of course, the Cooper Carbine is not actually that difficult to control as it is. It's not like you would say that this is super tough to control. But the AVT is noticeably better here, which does give us another point to the Nikita AVT, and does give us a score of 2 to the Nikita AVT and 1 to the Cooper Carbine. After the recoil, we do have the aim down sight speed. Now, the aim down sight speed on these guns are again very similar here. The Nikita AVT does have an aim down sight speed with our current build of 287 milliseconds, which is pretty fast for an assault rifle, and the Cooper Carbine does basically match this with a time of 290 milliseconds. Now, this is of course too close to separate and could go down to frame rounding in game, so we're not actually going to award a point here. We've still got 2 to the Nikita AVT and 1 to the Cooper Carbine. Moving on to another statistic here that is very similar, we do have the sprint to fire speed from this thing, and again a very similar number here, which is very interesting. It's almost like they just copy and pasted most of the stats from these weapons. The sprint to fire speed on the Nikita AVT is the 302 millisecond time, which is still not too bad for an assault rifle. It's a little slow for some of the other faster weapons in the game, but it's still competitive. And then the Cooper Carbine does have 299 millisecond sprint to fire speed, which again is basically the same number, and again could come down to frame rounding in game. So again, we're not going to award a point for this because they are very similar numbers. The Nikita AVT still at number 2 and the Cooper Carbine still at 1. Moving on to the magazine size here, we do have the Nikita AVT, which does feel a little bit short in the magazine, does have a 25 round mag with the build that we've gone. You get the most damage with that thing, you get a faster reload speed, damage range, all those lovely stats. But again, you do only get 25 rounds in the mag, which is obviously not ideal when you are trying to go on those longer streaks, as the Cooper Carbine does have a 45 round mags with our maximum damage and stuff like that, giving us the best stats, of course. Gives you a larger magazine with the 45 round mag, giving us another score to the Cooper Carbine, giving us 2 and 2 here. However, the reload speed stat with the Nikita AVT, because it has a faster magazine, but it does have a smaller one, does need that faster reload speed at 2.2 seconds in terms of that reload speed for the Nikita AVT. The Cooper Carbine does have a 2.8 second reload for this, but again, does have that larger magazine as a result. But as I said, the Nikita AVT does have a noticeably faster reload speed, but it does need to as a result of the smaller magazine. We're going to award a point here though to Nikita AVT, just because it does have a 2.2 second reload speed. So we've got 3 to the Nikita and we have 2 to the Cooper Carbine. The next stat that we do have here is a little bit of a silly one. It's not something that we do take super seriously most of the time. This is the theoretical kills per magazine, and again, this isn't going to be counted as a score. The Nikita AVT does have a very lackluster 8 kills per magazine in this stat, which is one of our worst results that we've seen in these videos so far, in the made up stat that makes no real difference. If we do compare this to a previous video on the Whitley, which did have a potential 2-shot kill back then of 75 kills per magazine of the 150 round mag, which is just ridiculous. Anyway, we're not going to award a point for this, as the Cooper Carbine have a 15 theoretical kills per magazine, but again, we're not really counting that here, so let's move on. The next one is a little bit interesting here in terms of better proficiency selection. We do have the Nikita AVT does have brace, sleight of hand, and I guess you'd take like driller. The third choice isn't ideal, but we really wouldn't use it anyway. And the Cooper Carbine does have vital, brace, and tight grip, which are all pretty good options here. The Cooper Carbine does probably have the overall better selection, but we do end up using brace for the initial accuracy and recoil control on both weapons anyway. So it's not too big of a deal, and again, we're not really going to award a point here, despite the Cooper Carbine technically having the better options, but because we use brace on both, it doesn't make a difference here. So Nikita AVT 3, and the Cooper Carbine still has 2. Next is aim down sight movement speed, which does typically affect your close range combat when you are aimed down sight. Again, the movement speed on this is quite important for assault rifles, and the Nikita AVT does have 5.5 miles per hour, which is honestly a little bit slow for the assault rifle category. That is actually one of the weapon's down points, but it's still a very powerful thing at that. The Cooper Carbine does have 7.4 miles per hour, which isn't lightning fast or anything, but it definitely is faster than the Nikita AVT. So we are going to award a point to the Cooper Carbine here, so we've got 3 to the Nikita and 3 to the Cooper Carbine. And the last stat that we do have here today is going to be taking a look at the effective damage range. Now, I believe this is measured in inches. It does mention the number and then IN, which could be inches. I think I'm not 100% sure though. If it is, we do have the Nikita AVT at 2,200 IN, which does give us a stat of 55 meters, which is really nice for our damage range. Does allow us to get that 3-shot kill out to about 55 meters or so. The Cooper Carbine does have a little bit less at 1,620 inches or IN, or 41.15 meters, which is still pretty decent for damage range in this game. However, the Nikita AVT does have a noticeably better damage range, and both are still pretty good though. A damage range of about 40 meters or so is still fantastic from the Cooper Carbine and will get you by on most maps, but however, the stat for the Nikita AVT is definitely a little bit bigger here, lets you fight at longer ranges, so the Nikita AVT does get our final score of 4 to the Cooper Carbine's 3 here. So to round this off here, we do have to make a decision as to which one is the best. According to our scoreboard, the Nikita AVT does win our comparison here today, but I'd still like to say that there is a good argument to be made for either way for each of these weapons. If you do like the brand new Nikita AVT and you think it is the best gun in the game, I definitely wouldn't argue with you there. But if you're a massive fan of the Cooper Carbine and you think it's still the best option in the game, I definitely wouldn't complain if you said that as well. I'm definitely a big fan of both guns, and it really could go either way in my opinion. I do like the extra consistency from the limb damage from the Nikita AVT plus hollow point, so I'm going to say that that is the better option in the game at the moment, but again, you could go either way here. Again, if you did enjoy this one and it did help you out at all making your choice as to which one you think the best gun, the best assault rifle in the game is at the moment, make sure you do hit that subscribe button with those notifications turned on. I do very much appreciate it, and it really does help me out. Of course, we are still looking for 6,000 subscribers, and if you could help me achieve that goal, that would be absolutely massive, and hopefully that means I will see you in the next one. Bye!